Picture this. Someone asks you to do something. A colleague, a friend, a family member, a stranger on a committee you somehow ended up on. And you don't want to do it. You know you don't want to do it. The word no is sitting right there, at the front of your mouth, ready to be said. You can feel it. And then, sure, yeah, I can do that. And the moment it leaves your mouth, something in you deflates, like a slow puncture, like you've handed something over. Your time, your Saturday, your emotional reserves, and you'll never get it back. Sound familiar? Here is what most people think this problem is about. They think it's about manners, about not wanting to be rude, about being a kind, accommodating person who values relationships. That's not what it's about. Not really. Saying yes when you desperately want to say no is not a politeness problem. It is a power problem. It is a signal, and a loud one, that somewhere along the way you learn that your own needs are negotiable, that other people's comfort matters more than your truth, that the word no is dangerous. And today, we are going to dismantle that belief completely. In the next few minutes, you are going to understand why you say yes all the time. Not in a vague, hand-wavy way, but down to the specific psychological archetype driving it. You are going to see how guilt operates as a manipulation mechanism, even when no one is consciously manipulating you. And you are going to walk away with a completely rebuilt relationship with the word no, understanding it not as rejection, but as resource protection. Not as a wall, as a gate. One that you control. Let's get into it. Section 1, the architecture of yes, why we can't stop saying it. Let me ask you something honest. The last time you said yes to something you didn't want to do, what was the first thought that went through your head when you agreed? Was it, I don't want to disappoint them? Was it, I should be able to handle this, I can figure it out later? Was it, what if I say no and they don't ask me again? What if I miss something? Or was it simply, it's easier to just say yes than to deal with whatever comes after? Pay attention to which one of those landed in your chest, because that reaction, that specific flavor of discomfort, is not random. It is a pattern. And it has a name. There are 4 archetypes of people who say yes when they mean no, and understanding which one you are is the first step to breaking out of it. The first is the people pleaser. The people pleaser says yes because they are terrified of disappointing someone. They say yes to friends, to family, to strangers, to Jehovah's Witnesses who show up at the door unannounced. Not because they want to, but because the idea of someone being disappointed in them is genuinely unbearable. Here's what no one tells the people pleaser. The people around them are not as devastated by the word no as they imagine. Most people, when they get a clear, honest no, move on within seconds. They find another option. They figure it out. The world does not stop spinning. The catastrophe only exists in the people pleaser's head, and it keeps them giving away time and energy they don't have to people who weren't going to collapse without them anyway. The second is the overachiever. The overachiever says yes because they are the only one who can do it right. They are a perfectionist. They measure their worth by output. Being the person who always delivers, always shows up, always comes through, that is their identity. Saying no feels like losing, like admitting they are not as capable as they claimed. But here's the trap. When you say yes to everything, you fragment yourself across 100 tasks, none of which gets your full presence. The overachiever's greatest sabotage is not laziness. It's the inability to protect their focus. And focus, not effort, is what produces great work. The third is the FOMOer. The FOMOer doesn't even necessarily want the thing being offered, but they are haunted by the possibility that if they say no, they might miss something irreplaceable. A connection, an opportunity, an experience that defines them. They are ruled not by desire, but by the fear of regret. The tragedy? They say yes so often to things they don't actually want that they're too depleted to show up fully for the things they do. FOMO, fear of missing out, ends up creating exactly the emptiness it was trying to prevent. The fourth is the pushover. The pushover says yes because conflict feels dangerous. Not metaphorically, physically. The thought of someone being upset, or angry, or disappointed with them creates a visceral need to smooth it over, to make peace, to take whatever path requires the least friction. But the path of least resistance always leads downhill. And the pushover doesn't realize that every time they capitulate to avoid conflict, they are quietly teaching the people around them, my limits don't exist. Push further. Now, most people are not purely one of these types. Most people are a cocktail of 2 or 3. What matters is recognizing the fuel that's driving your yes. Because here is the single most important thing I want you to understand right now. You are not saying yes because you are weak. You are saying yes because you were never given a framework for protecting yourself that didn't feel like cruelty. No one taught you that saying no was okay. Not just strategically okay, morally okay. So let's build that framework now. Because everything starts with a budget, and not the kind you're thinking of. We just identified the why, but the psychology behind guilt, why we feel like criminals for saying no, even when we've done absolutely nothing wrong, that is what we need to understand next. And it goes deeper than you think. Let me tell you something about guilt. Guilt is supposed to be a signal, a healthy emotion that fires when you have actually done something wrong, when you've hurt someone, broken a promise, crossed a line. That's its job. But for most people who can't say no, and this is critical, guilt has become completely decoupled from wrongdoing. It fires automatically, every time, whether they've done something wrong or not. Think about the last time you declined an invitation, even a perfectly reasonable one. Even when you were genuinely busy, genuinely tired, genuinely not available. Did the guilt come anyway? Of course it did. That is not healthy guilt. That is a malfunctioning alarm. It's like a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. The problem is not the smoke. The problem is the detector. So where did the alarm get broken? Here's the honest answer. Most guilt, and research on social behavior consistently points to this, most guilt is self-imposed. Not because someone actually confronted you and said, "You are a terrible person for saying no," but because somewhere in your history, you absorbed the belief that your needs are secondary. That accommodation is virtue. That the right way to be loved is to make yourself indispensable. And now your brain enforces that belief like a policy, even when no one asked it to. Think about this. How many times have you said yes to something, spent the entire lead-up resenting it, shown up physically but not emotionally, and given the worst possible version of yourself simply because you were afraid of what someone might think if you declined? Not what they said, what they might think. You were punishing yourself and them for a crime that existed only in your imagination. Now, there is a small percentage, maybe 20% of cases where someone does push back when you say no, where the guilt is not self-generated, where someone makes a passive-aggressive comment, gives you a look, says, "I guess you're just too busy for us." And I want to be very clear about what is happening in those moments. When someone refuses to accept your no, when they argue your decision, question your reasoning, make you feel like a monster for having a boundary, that behavior says nothing about you. It says something very specific about them. They are projecting, because they have never given themselves permission to say no either. And watching you do it makes them uncomfortable in their own cage. So they rattle yours. You do not owe them an explanation. You do not owe them a justification. You owe them honesty. And honesty, delivered politely, is not cruelty. Here is the distinction that changes everything. You are responsible for what you say. You are not responsible for how someone feels about what you said. That is their domain, not yours. Sticking to your no does not make you a bad person. Sticking to your no when someone is pressuring you to abandon it is actually one of the most psychologically healthy things you can do for yourself. And this is the part people miss for them. Because when you model healthy limits, clearly and without drama, you give the people around you permission to do the same. You normalize it. You make it okay. You become someone who can be trusted to tell the truth. And if we want to understand how to actually implement this, how to make saying no feel less like an act of violence, we need to talk about one of the most practical, underused frameworks in personal psychology: the energy budget. The guilt is internal. The permission is yours to give yourself. But the execution, the practical act of saying no to the right things, at the right time, in the right way, that requires a completely different kind of thinking. Coming up next, the one mental model that changes how you see every request, every obligation, and every yes you've ever regretted. Here is the question no one asks you. When someone asks for your time, your Saturday afternoon, your mental presence, your emotional labor, your weekend, your expertise, what are they actually asking for? They are asking you to spend something, not money, something more finite, something you cannot earn back, no matter how hard you work. Your time, your energy, your attention. And here's what most people treat those resources like: an unlimited supply. Like there's always more. Like saying yes costs nothing. Like the well never runs dry. But it does. It runs dry every single week. And then you spend the next week running on empty, wondering why you're exhausted, resentful, and performing at a fraction of your capacity. Every yes you say to something you don't want to do is a withdrawal. It costs something. And somewhere on the ledger, a yes to that thing is automatically a no to something else. Every yes to covering for a colleague who keeps dropping the ball is a no to your own priorities. Every yes to a social obligation you're dreading is a no to the rest you actually need. Every yes you say out of guilt is a no to your own self-respect. These are not abstract concepts. They are real transactions happening inside your life, right now. So the framework is this. Before you say yes, ask 3 questions. First, can I? Do I actually have the capacity, the time, the energy, the money to do this? Not, could I technically squeeze it in, but genuinely do I have the resources without depleting myself? Second, should I? Even if I can, is this something I'm obligated to do? Is the consequence of saying no something I'm willing to live with? Or am I just assuming there's a consequence that may not actually exist? Third, do I want to? And this is the one most people skip. Not is it convenient, not is it reasonable. Simply, do I actually want to do this? Because here is something our culture does not say loudly enough. Not wanting to do something is a valid reason not to do it. You heard that right. You do not need to be ill. You do not need a competing engagement. You do not need a reason that would hold up in court. If you do not want to do something, if it depletes you, doesn't align with who you are, or simply fails to bring you anything, that is enough of a reason. Now let's talk about what the boundaries actually look like, practically. Think of your time and energy like a fenced property. Everything outside the fence is the world making requests of you. Everything inside is yours. Yours to protect, to allocate, to spend on what actually matters. Setting a boundary means deciding what comes through the gate. Enforcing a boundary means actually keeping the gate closed when something should stay out. Here's where most people fail. They set the boundary in their head. They know they don't want to do the thing. They acknowledge that the request is unreasonable or inconvenient or simply not for them. But then, when the moment comes, they open the gate anyway, because guilt walked up, knocked, and they weren't practiced enough to say no entry. Discipline around your limits is exactly like physical discipline. The first time you enforce a boundary, it is uncomfortable. Your body reacts like you've done something wrong. You feel like you should apologize. That discomfort is not a signal that you've made a mistake. It's a signal that you are doing something new, something your nervous system is not yet accustomed to. Keep going anyway. There is also a powerful tool in the arsenal that almost no one uses: the personal policy. A personal policy is a pre-decided rule about your own behavior, not negotiated case by case, not subject to emotional pressure in the moment. Already decided. I have a personal policy against lending money to family. I have a personal policy against taking on new projects in the final month of a quarter. I have a personal policy against social commitments on Sunday mornings. Personal policies work because they remove the decision from the moment of maximum emotional pressure. They shift the answer from you to a rule you've already established. It becomes impersonal, consistent, and therefore inarguable. And here's the secret: you don't even have to justify them. They are your policies. You made them. They protect you. Nobody questions why their bank has a policy. They just accept it and move on. You are allowed to be the bank of your own time. That's the framework. But knowing when to say no is only half the battle. The other half is knowing how. And this is where most people fall apart, because they either over-explain, go silent, or say it so apologetically that the other person doesn't believe them. Next, we're going to build your actual toolkit. Most people, when they decide to finally say no to something, make one of two mistakes. They either say nothing, avoid the question, ghost the invite, delay the response until it's too late, and then feel terrible about it. Or they give 3 paragraphs of reasons, apologies, and compensations. They turn their no into such a long, contorted knot that the other person is confused about whether they got a yes or a no. And the guilt has doubled, because now it took 5 emails to say something that should have taken 1 sentence. Here's the thing about when you over-explain a no, you're not being polite. You're being unconfident. You're signaling that your no needs justification to be legitimate, that it isn't valid on its own, and that signal invites people to challenge it. Because you've made it clear there are cracks to push on. A clear, direct, honest no does not require a defense. I can't make it, but thank you for including me. I'm not able to take that on right now. That doesn't work for me. Done. Now, I am not saying be cold. I'm not saying be blunt to the point of cruelty. Honesty and politeness are not opposites. You can be warm and direct. You can be kind and clear. In fact, a genuine no delivered with care is a far greater act of respect than a dishonest yes. Let me give you 4 distinct tools. Think of them as different instruments for different situations. The hard no. Simple, direct, non-negotiable. I'm not able to do that. No elaboration, no apology. Best used for requests that are unreasonable, recurring, or where any softness will be interpreted as an invitation to negotiate. The no for now. Not a maybe, a real no for this specific time, with a genuine door left open for later. I can't commit to this right now, but I'd love to revisit it next quarter. This is for FOMOers and overachievers who feel like every no is a permanent door closing. It's not. This preserves the relationship and the future possibility without sacrificing the present. The professional no, used in work and business contexts, formal enough to be inarguable. Upon reviewing the timeline, I'm afraid that won't be feasible given current priorities. Notice what this does. It doesn't make it about your inability. It makes it about the situation. The project isn't possible. Not, I can't handle it. The framing matters enormously. And here's a critical distinction within this. Never say I'm unable. Say that isn't possible. One questions your competence and invites people to problem solve around you. The other closes the topic, the no and switch. This is for situations where you genuinely want to help, just not in the way that's being asked. I can't do X, but what if we did Y instead? You're not abandoning the person. You're redirecting to something that actually works for you. This is especially powerful in relationships where the other person's feelings genuinely matter to you, but their specific request doesn't work. Now, there's one more tool that deserves its own moment, the power no. The power no is silence, no reply at all. Not because you're being passive-aggressive, but because some requests don't deserve the dignity of a response. A stranger who slides into your messages with an entitled ask. Someone who has been told no twice already and is asking a 3rd time. A person whose behavior has made clear that any response, even a negative one, is just fuel for more engagement. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is nothing. Silence is not absence. Silence is a position. Here is what I want you to hold on to, though, as you start implementing all of this. You will not get it perfect immediately. The first time you say no to something and someone pushes back, the guilt will arrive on schedule. Your stomach will tighten. You will second guess yourself. That's okay. That discomfort doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means you're doing something new. And new things at first feel like danger. That's just your nervous system doing its job. The way through it is not to eliminate the feeling. It is to feel it and act from your decision anyway. We have the psychology. We have the framework. We have the tools. But I want to end on something most people never say about boundaries. Something that reframes this entire conversation. Because saying no isn't just good for you. It might be the most generous thing you can do for the people you love. There is a version of this conversation where learning to say no feels like becoming a more selfish person. Like drawing inward, like building walls. That is not what this is. When you say a dishonest yes, when you show up somewhere you didn't want to be, perform a task you resented being asked, attend a gathering you were dreading the entire week. What version of yourself do you bring? Not your best. You know you don't. You bring the depleted, distracted, half-present version, the one who's already running through everything else they could be doing. The one who needs 3 glasses of wine to tolerate their own resentment. And the people you're with, they can feel it. Maybe they can't name it, but they feel it. Now imagine the alternative. You say no to the things that deplete you. Not all things, not everything uncomfortable, not every inconvenient ask, but the ones that genuinely cost more than you have right now. And with the space that creates, you say a real yes to the things that matter. You show up to the dinner where you actually want to be there. You do the favor that genuinely means something to you to give. You take the project that lights you up instead of grinding through one that crushes you. That's not selfish. That is the most valuable version of yourself you can offer anyone. There is also something deeply generous in a clear, quick no. Think about the last time you were waiting on someone's RSVP and they just wouldn't commit. They kept saying maybe, and I'll let you know, and I'm going to try until the last possible second. What did that feel like? Not considerate, right? It felt like they were hedging their bets at your expense. Now think about the friend who responds within a day. I can't make it, but I hope it's wonderful. And you can move on. You can adjust your plans. You know where you stand. That person's clear no was a gift. It gave you information. It gave you time. It respected yours. Here is the deepest truth I want to leave you with. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you are not saving the relationship. You are slowly poisoning it. Because resentment is not silent. It seeps into your tone, your presence, the way you respond when something else goes wrong, the way you pull back just slightly over time, and the other person doesn't even know why. Because from their perspective, you kept saying yes, so they have no idea anything was wrong. A life built on dishonest yeses is a life built on an invisible rift between who you are and how you show up. The word no, said honestly and kindly, is one of the most intimate things you can offer someone. It tells them you trust them with your truth. It tells them your yes, when it comes, is real. A person who can say no is a person whose yes means something. That is what boundaries build. Not walls, not distance, trust. So here is where I want to leave you. The next time someone asks you for something, your time, your energy, your presence, your weekend, before you say a word, pause for 2 seconds, just 2, and ask yourself, can I? Should I? Do I want to? If the honest answer to at least one of those is no, say it, clearly, kindly, without a paragraph of justification. I can't do that right now. That doesn't work for me. I'm going to pass on this one, but thank you. And then let the discomfort come. Don't run from it. Don't apologize your way out of it. Just let it sit and watch what happens. What you'll find, maybe not the first time, but eventually, is that the world does not end. The relationship does not collapse. The person does not dissolve. They adjust. They move on. And sometimes, more often than you'd expect, they actually respect you more. Because the people worth keeping in your life are not kept by your endless availability. They are kept by your honesty, your presence, your actual self. And your actual self needs room to breathe. Give it that room. But here's something I need to leave you with. Knowing all of this, the archetypes, the guilt, the energy budget, the tools, is not enough on its own. Because knowing is the easy part. The hard part is the moment the cue fires. The moment your colleague sends the message, your family member calls, your boss drops another request in your lap. In that moment, your brain doesn't consult your values. It runs the program it has always run. The loop that was built long before you watched this video. That loop, the automatic yes, the reflex compliance, the guilt that fires before you've even had a chance to think, that is a habit. And habits follow a very specific architecture. A cue, a routine, a reward. Your people-pleasing is not a character flaw. It is a behavioral program. One that was installed through repetition, reinforced through reward, and stored so deep in the brain's automation system that willpower alone cannot touch it. Which means if you want the no to actually stick, not just as a one-time act of courage, but as a new way of operating, you need to understand exactly how that program was built, and more importantly, how to rewrite it. That is precisely what I broke down in this video right here. It covers the neuroscience of why your behavior keeps looping back to the same patterns, no matter how many times you decide to change. Why motivation disappears. Why willpower fails at the exact moment you need it most. And what actually works instead. If this video gave you the why behind your yes, that one gives you the mechanism behind every habit running your life. Watch it next.